Well, listen, I'm not opposed to limiting the infectious circumstances by social distancing or physical distancing. I'm not opposed to washing your hands to maintain a certain amount of a sanitary state. But the real question is, why do some people get it and other people don't? That's really a more important question. So if there's three types of stress, Brian: physical stress, trauma, accidents, injuries. You have chemical stress, pesticides, pollutants, toxins, blood sugar levels, and you have emotional stress, family tragedies, second mortgages, single parenting, loss of a job, and all of these things knock the brain and body out of balance. Well, let's just say if you have three types of stresses that create imbalance, then there's three types of things that do create balance. So the person who is physically out of balance because they broke a hip or they had an injury and they're not sleeping through the night and their body's out of chemical balance, it's in a weakened state. They're taking certain medications that have effects on their body that causes them to be chemically out of balance. They have diabetes. They're working in an environment where there's some type of vapor that weakens their immune system. They just lost their job. Their family members in the hospital. And so now they're out of balance and they are more susceptible to those conditions. And so I don't think that the medical community intentionally does not want to inform people, but everybody's in emergency mode. And when you're in emergency mode and you're feeling those emotions, no new information really enters the nervous system that isn't equivalent with the emotion that we're experiencing. So we accept information more readily when we feel fear that is equal to that fear. And so helping people to understand that they're not as limited as they once believed, that there is an innate intelligence in the body that has memorized viruses and bacteria for thousands of years. And we just have to understand that it's not that we react. The question is how long we react. In teaching people that they have some control over their emotional state begins to teach them that they can actually change the physiology, the chemistry, and even the gene expression of their body. And we have research to show in 4 days of doing the proper things, you can begin to change your gene expression. I mean, that gives you more power. So this isn't natural. This isn't normal. You don't see this. But when you start engaging information that says what's possible, I think all of a sudden now people start looking at possibilities they never looked at before. And by the way, this is the time where we have to actually apply this information and personalize it. And so I'm interested in empowering people, not to say go out and start living your normal life. I'm saying, look, let's just practice during this time on how to become conscious of our thoughts. What thoughts we do want to pay attention to. Let's become aware of how we speak, how we act. Let's think about how we're feeling and decide if I want to continue to feel that way. Now, if you're not going anywhere and you're not seeing anybody and you're learning information and you got time, you're not traveling, you're not commuting, you're not going to work, you got a little extra time on your hands. If you choose to binge watch a series of TV shows, and don't expect your life to change much. But if you said, hey, I'm going to practice some inner work here, I'm going to fill my brain with knowledge, I'm going to practice my own personal change and transformation, what a great opportunity. Then all of a sudden, and I said this to my staff, I refuse to be a victim or be victimized by this circumstance. I will adapt, I will create, I will change, I will figure out ways from a greater level of consciousness to respond to those conditions. And that's what I'm after. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in coming up with greater solutions. And people who are in survival, you can't do that because it's not a time to create. It's a time to respond and react. But we have to begin to lay down what we've done our whole life to get what we want for something greater to occur. And now when people start opening their hearts and when they start creating heart coherence, and we have research to show that you can do that and learn the skill. And when your brain is in an emergency state and you're in high beta brainwave patterns, the alarm system is switched on, and you're narrowing your focus on your outer world, because that's where the danger is. And the brain gets very, very disorderly. It's very incoherent, but we have a formula to teach people how to create more brain coherence. And when they go against those chemicals and they begin to broaden their focus and open their focus and put their attention on space, on information, on energy, it begins to entrain the nervous system into more order. And now they're more coherent, they're clearer. They can see possibilities. They're in a creative state. And how we begin to use our heart and our brain to start to produce effects in our outer world is my interest. Now, all of a sudden, when you start seeing those changes appear in your life as a result of your internal changes, you're going to believe less that you're the victim of your life and a little bit more that you're the creator of your life. And that all of a sudden empowers people because they would say, I would never create that disease for myself. I would never create getting that condition. Now, I'm not saying that the people who got the condition weren't created that. I'm saying just maybe we create by default, by not creating, and giving people the understanding that they're not limited, that they are powerful, that their relationship with their immune system is something that they're interacting with on a daily basis. And being able to self-regulate, I think, starts opening doors that we never saw before.
Yeah, you mentioned that this might be a difficult time to be grateful. I think it's easier for me right now to be grateful because I'm thinking about all the things that I used to take for granted, whether that means meeting someone for a coffee or, working, or I look at my kids now and they're completely oblivious about what's going on, and they bring me this fresh energy to the room because they're not stressed. And I don't know, I find now a time where it's a great time to practice that gratitude. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think in your workshops, you actually put people in these fearful situations, sometimes I think 50 feet in the air, to make sure that they can actually practice these. So you're kind of experienced of teaching people to use this practically in kind of fearful situations. Is that right?
Here's my thing. Brian, I'm never going to stop asking greater questions, and I'm never going to stop pushing that envelope. We have mounds of research from our community, thousands and thousands and thousands of brain scans. We have thousands of heart rate monitor and heart rate variability measurements to show that our community, in fact, Bond University just released our research, and we're writing a paper on it, that our student body could actually self-regulate and change their brain waves in a very, very quick amount of time. We understand how to do that, and we understand how to create that kind of coherence. And if you're doing it in a room where there's soft music playing and there's 1,500 people around you and it's safe and you're not distracted by your environment and the music's filling the space and your eyes are closed and you're not going anywhere, you're not eating anything, you're not smelling anything, you're not tasting anything, you're not experiencing and feeling anything, and you have the ability to pay attention and change your brain waves and get beyond your analytical mind and enter your autonomic nervous system, you can begin to produce physiological changes that you thought were only once left to yogis and mystics and masters. And turns out that we can teach people how to do that. So if you do that in the environment where you've practiced it, and then you return back to your life after a week-long retreat, and you start reacting to the same circumstances in your outer environment, every person, every object, everything, every place has a neurological network in your brain because you've experienced it. That means it's known. And because you've experienced that boss or that coworker or your drive to work or your ex or your cell phone or whatever it is, or where you sleep, where you work, you have an emotion, a feeling associated with it because you've experienced it. So then if you've experienced it, then it's known as well. So you return back to your life and you start responding and reacting to the circumstances in your life. You just went unconscious to the program, or you are back in the subconscious program that you're victimized by your environment. Your environment is controlling the way you feel and think. In other words, you're thinking and feeling equal to your environment. That means how you think and how you feel is your state of being. You just return back to your old self. Don't expect your life to change, because if your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, you start thinking the same way, acting the same way, and feeling the same way, then you just return back to the same personality and your life will stay the same. So I thought, okay, these people obviously can do it. We have the data to prove it. So now let's take it to the next level. Let's put people in circumstances where that would normally elicit a survival emotion like fear, that would drive a subconscious or automatic program for them to go unconscious and do exactly what they've always done when they feel these emotions, and throw in a program that would be natural and normal. Or you put them in a circumstance that elicits that same response, and in that moment, that is the moment now where they have to self-regulate, and they have to go against thousands of years of programming and fear.